Hey, it is Thursday afternoon. I just put the horses out after I brought 3 of them in here to do some grazing. I got a kidney stone in the last several days, which was super painful, and I had to take 1 day off. But I'm mostly recovered now, and I've made a lot of progress on this buttress thing. So there's lots of mortar on it now. And I'm trying to get to a point where I feel like it can be finished, and then I can move on to the next project, because that's going to be my thing this year, is to finish things and not just have a bunch of things juggling up in the air. Which gets me to my next project, which is the rock wall, which I think is what I'm gonna do next. But I want to finish this, and I want to finish the rock wall, and each one will probably take about a batch. So there's one cool feature I'll share with you from this whole buttress thing. So you can see up at the top, it's got 2 buttress arms that stick out on the top and on the left. And if I can get up there, you can see what was created right here, which could totally be like a eagle's nest or something. And there's just enough privacy where, I don't know, maybe a big bird will move there one day or something. That'd be cool. But anyways, I think this buttress is doing its job. And I've also, hey sweetheart, you good girl. And I've also put quite a bit of mortar on this back wall as well, getting all of the cavity, I guess, as much as possible out of this area, so it doesn't look like it's leaning at all, and so it's a little bit more buttressed. And that's about all. It's a beautiful day. Good morning. So the next project here is rectifying this tire wall, which has started to lean. You can see I did a lot of it last year. I'm going to add a whole nother coat of mortar to this whole section over here, and then reinforce these 2 triangular buttresses on either side of that window. And I'll probably just add a coat on most all of that. I've got to sweep a lot of stuff off, so that'll be my second batch. I've got to clean up the stone before I can do that. But what I'm going to start over here is this section here, where it's also leaning. I don't know if you can really tell from the video, but this is probably the area where it's leaning the worst, is right here. So I put all those rocks in, and there's a little bit of steel, and then I'm going to build that up. So I'll mortar all this in, and then I'll find some more rocks and build it up more, so that ultimately this can't fall over, and there will be a big rock there preventing it from falling over. And then I think there's one more section of tire wall over there that I'll have to buttress or rectify or strengthen with stone. But I'm going to focus on this one first, and then there's just a little bit left on the buttress for the small tower there before I can really call that one finished. But I'm going to get this this finish. Will be a smaller project and easier to wrap up. Looks like the cats killed the mouse, and now the chickens are having at it. Circle of life. Donna doesn't want to be on film with the mouse. And we've got 9 chicks that are in the outdoor coop here. It's a little bit chilly today and windy. Whew. But these ones are the oldest chicks, and they're all doing good. And gonna get to this area next. Just wanted to show you what this looks like after one batch. So I'll let all of this dry or cure and then bring up more rocks and then build on top of it and fill out as much of like these areas. Like there's a big hole right back there where I wouldn't want to fill that all with mortar, both because it would slump a lot, it would take more time, it would cost more money. So you'd like pack that up with rocks and then use the mortar to integrate it all. So I gotta bring a bunch of rocks up here and might do that today. So on this rock wall over here, some progress was made focusing on the foundation of it and connecting it to the exposed bedrock. So that's what we have right here, is exposed bedrock. And then the mortar is tying the rock wall to the exposed bedrock while also covering parts of the bedrock so that ice doesn't get into it and so that it sheds water appropriately in the transition between the bedrock and the rock wall. Look right here, there's a band of crystal in the rock. So the crystal band, it seems to go like laterally this way. There's like a band of it like that thick of crystal in the rock, which is kind of cool how that even happens. Somewhere deep in the earth under pressure likely, and then is exposed to us much later. So I made a lot of progress, especially right in here, digging all of this out. So that's all exposed bedrock. And so there was dirt and roots and stuff in there, so did a really good job cleaning it out. And now I can see that the rock wall on this side is on exposed bedrock all the way down to right here. So that's down to exposed bedrock, and then this whole section is all on exposed bedrock. So this section of rock wall is likely to last a very long time, and for that reason it's also worth putting in a little bit more effort into it to make it aesthetically pleasing and more kind of smooth, because this could literally last thousands of years, believe it or not. Except I don't know how, it might be the mortar that would fail first. But rock walls, and especially on a situation where it's on bedrock, can definitely last a very long time. And then yeah, so over there, so it's just got that little section in here where there's some dirt, and there's gonna be some probably bedrock under there. So at some point I'm gonna dig that out, and then I figure I might even try to put a pipe, a drain pipe, like up underneath that. And then if I can rock all the way down to the bedrock, that'll really solidify it. But otherwise, that's the main risk, because in the winter, that will absorb water, and then that ice will push up and then destabilize that area under there. So, anyways, that's just what's kind of happened on this. And then I did a similar thing on this side of it as well, so that it's cemented down to the bedrock on either side. So I guess still not quite done with the rock wall, but since I mentioned it, I just wanted to give an update on where it's at now. Here's this little area after one batch of mortar, and then round two more buckets of rocks. And then tomorrow I'll do more mortar and add more rocks. So today what I'm doing is cleaning out this small tower. I had a bunch of gardening stuff stored in here, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with the small tower, but it's currently kind of my focus area. So I'm figuring out what to do by cleaning it out, and that'll probably include some work on the walls and integrating it with this dome a bit more, something like that. So what I've done in here in the small tower is porcupine some pieces of rebar up on that tire wall to integrate the whole structure better together and give it all tensile strength to prevent it from leaning and just really fortify it on this side. So I'm kind of doing what I said I wanted to not do, which is getting all of these projects going, but just following what I'm excited to do. And what that is right now is playing with steel and remesh and starting to give shape to this structure. So just the two sheets of remesh there. One of them continuing the arch from the existing arch, and then that one kind of rounding the corner, so I can start to get an idea of this shape. And I guess that's what I'm gonna do, despite thinking that it wasn't what I was gonna do. But I'm just extending using all this rebar and this steel, and it just naturally gets into this structure here. So I've got a number of pieces of rebar coming off to connect that small tower over to this bond beam, which will be on top of the tires. And then the 4 pieces of rebar in here, 2 diagonally parallel and 2 laterally parallel or horizontally parallel, have begun to be mortared in. And I'll have to add at least one more on top to bridge this crack that had formed due to lack of steel right there, and the structure moving that way, so the ferrous cement dome wasn't able to hold on to it. And then so this is what it looks like coming out, a continuation of the dome, and then it'll round the corner. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do next is maybe do an arch over the middle, just so I can figure out this whole transition here for this section. And I don't know if it's smart to do the steel now, but it's just what's interesting for me right now. So I'm playing with some ideas about how to shape this structure up here coming off of the small tower. So I've got a good bit of it already shaped, the closest part, but how I'm going to do this main structure is still uncertain. So I'm playing around with the remesh sheets and then some rebar in places, and using this greenhouse thing as just something to help me support what I'm when I'm bending the structure into, and using a lot of arches and then combining things. But I'm having fun with this. It is Thursday morning, close to midday, May 18th. Got 11 chickies in this group that are all staying. Ooh, there goes Hermes. And I just let them out. They're doing a little exploring, eating some of these berry bush leaves. There was a freeze last night, but I was able to cover the 4 new fruit trees so that they were protected. Lewis isn't doing so well. I think he got some disease. He almost died. But I think he's doing a little better now, but he's still pretty much out of it. He's on some antibiotics. And here's how this structure is looking. It's still pretty hard to see because in the video, until it actually gets lath on it, it can be difficult to tell. But it's going to be kind of like a pagoda with many arches built in. And the lath, which is the finer diamonds, this is all remesh with some rebar in there to get the shape. And then the lath is connected on this section, and I have added the first mortar to it, so that once the mortar cures, then these various layers of metal become rock, and it all gets integrated in. And I added another piece of rebar down here, as well as cleaning this whole area. Might have gotten cleaned out since the last one, or I forget what I did in the last video. But this rebar here going up from the corner will help to give that wall a little bit of strength to not lean out, because it'll be connected to all of this weight, which is counterbalancing it. So I've got a lot of mortar to add to the walls in here. I'm just getting started for the day. The cold has passed, and it should be a busy day of mortar, and try to mortar in as much of these pieces of rebar as possible, and probably add some more, just packing out the walls there, and then add as much mortar to these lath sections as I can without deforming them, so that those ones that are already to the shape that I like can get rocked into place, and then I can progress to the other areas. But now for the mortar. So it's Thursday. The chicks, which I had incubated and raised to sell, are gone, and these are all the chicks who are left. There are 13 total, and this little one making some noise doesn't have a name yet, nor does the one behind him. Good news is Klondike there made a full recovery. Klondike's feet, the 1 foot is no longer like somewhat disabled. It's now fully healthy. Hermes is still having a hard time, but now Hermes has 2 new friends in there to hang out with for the night, because Hermes doesn't go on the perch yet. And so yeah, 13, lucky number 13 is how many chicks I'm keeping from this year's eggs. I might incubate more if I have a lot of losses from predators, but otherwise I'm going to keep it at this. And then there was 12 that went out. And so everyone's good in here. There's just the 2 younger ones that I separated from the other ones that aren't ready for the roost yet, and everyone else is getting ready for the night. You can hear horses running, chickens clucking. This building is starting to take shape and has a patch of mortar on it. Oops. So just getting what I could get to stick on it. And then here in the arch, most of it on that side and on the top. So it's coming together. I'll be able to make a lot more progress tomorrow, as everything's more rigid. And then down here, this piece of rebar is starting to get all mortared in as well, and made a bit of progress on the other stuff as well. But just 2 batches today. Lewis is having some health problems, and so I'm spending a lot of time with him. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. I lost my best buddy today. 8 great years. Rest in peace, Lewis. You're the greatest dog ever. Yeah, it's the Saturday. It's the day after Lewis passed. Lewis is the second best friend of mine that I've buried here in Elodium, the first being Spartacus, who was a cat who moved up here with me and He's my cat out in Colorado. And brought him back to Vermont, and along with my other cat Fuzzy, who I had had for many years before Spartacus. And Fuzzy got lost on the trip from Colorado to Vermont. And then there was just Spartacus. And then when Spartacus passed, there was Apollo and Lewis. And well, it's just really sucks to lose Lewis. He was such a great positive dog and just had the greatest demeanor and the childlike heart and smile all the time, no matter what. Even in his last moments, as he was laying down in the south field and basically reaching organ failure, when I went down there, he had a smile on his face. And just greeting the reality of the world, including all of the pain and suffering, with a smile. It's just such an inspiration and so much to learn from him. And I was able to be with him when he passed, and that was a blessing. And I'm just gonna miss him so much. And so this is gonna be the last video of this episode, even though it's a Saturday. So it'll be like the last week and a half, kind of. And I'll show you right here. See if I can flip this. Flip it. Right, does that flip? Okay, so this is how far I got on this structure. Another batch or so. Some more lath. And this much is mortared so far. So I'm gonna see if I am up for a batch of mortar today, and otherwise I'll do some other stuff. That's all for now. Here's where Mr. Lewis is laying to rest, right in between the two gates at the entrance. And we're guarding the gates.